Hello and welcome to the DSP Project, the show all about music production and stuff. I am your host, Rupert Brown, and before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. Just to let you know, in January I'm going to be leaving London and going home to New Zealand for a holiday to see my friends and family, so I'm very excited about that. But what that means to you is there may be some disruption to the show. I'm going to try, if I get time, to pre-record a few episodes, but the release schedule might be a little bit more wonky than usual, so you're just going to have to stick with me for that. Also, as you may or may not know, we are giving away the APC-20, the latest dedicated controller for Ableton Live, made by Akai Professional. If you would like to win this, and I'm pretty sure you do, you want to head down to thedspproject.com/win. Now, this week though, we are carrying on with part 3 of effects racks, and particularly we're going to look at the Chain Selector, what it does, how it does it, and what you can do with it. So let's get started. Here I have one channel of audio. I've got a simple drum loop loaded in, and an audio effects rack. In this effects rack, I've got in each one of these chains, if I pop the little device viewer out, we've got a clean chain, redux, reverb, saturator, overdrive, delay. I've only got one effect per chain just to try and keep this example as clear as possible. So we're talking about the chain selector. If we hit this little chain button here, it pops it out. So hide chain, and on the far right here, it's a bit hard to see, but there's little tiny blue bars, and this is the default behavior, which means that the chain selector, hit this little bar at the top, is set at 0, and there's a zone for each one of these chains. So I'm going to push Command A to Command A to select all of these different chains, and drag this blue bar out, and I'm going to right click on them and select distribute ranges equally. Now basically what this now means is, with this chain selector here, this little orange bar you can see at the top, I'm just dragging it over with my mouse. When it is in a certain zone, only the chains that have a blue bar in that zone will receive audio in to the chain. So what we've now got is kind of a way of jumping between each of the effects. So if I just hit play, drag this over, the redux, reverb, saturator, overdrive, and delay. So the delay, there's no, it's completely wet, so we'll just leave a little bit in. Okay, so now we've got a way of jumping between our different effects, and so this might be useful for if you have a bunch of your favorite presets for different effects. Let's say you might have a distortion rack, and you can then map. I'm going to map the chain select here, so select MIDI map, hit the chain selector, move my knob, take it off MIDI mode, and so I've now got this controlled by my MIDI controller in front of me. And so we can now use this as an easy way to jump between different effects. So far so good, but we can also use the chain selector to create multiple blends of different effects. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start moving these zones sort of freehand. So let's say I basically want to start with something clean and get it to build up to something more intense. So I'll take the clean back because that's only going to be the start, and then let's say I want maybe the reverb to come in first, then the redux, saturator, overdrive, delay. Okay. So what we've got happening here is we'll have the clean signal at the start of the pot, and then as I move the chain selector further down, more of these chains are going to start receiving input, and so we're going to get more of we're going to start to hear all the different effects come in. So let's just have a listen to it and see what that sounds like. Cool. So as you can see, we've now got a way of bringing all those parts in, but there's still quite an abrupt jolt as each part comes in. So to get around that is we can actually you can see there's the dark blue line at the top, there's a light blue line, and I can get a hold of that and actually put a little slope there. And what this does is it actually fades in, so it fades the amount of signal being fed into that particular chain. So if I put these long fades on it, say the redux, we'll make that really long, like so. And so what we're going to, oopsie, grab the bottom, not the top. So what we in theory should get now is a lot smoother transition as each of the effects comes in. So let's give that a go. Cool. So now we're getting somewhere. We can, of course, if we wanted to take this the next step again, we can use some of the knowledge that we learned in the previous video about the macro controls and start working that in and actually have the settings of the effects also changing as we wind our pod up. So what I could do, for instance, is this chain selector. At the moment I've got it mapped to this pot on my controller, but I could right click on here and select map to macro 1, and so Live's giving me a warning to say, hey look, you've already got this mapped to your MIDI controller, but yes, I do want to map it to this part here. And so now I'm going to go to MIDI map, and I'm going to map this to my MIDI controller. So what this now allows me to do is I can change the settings. So let's say whatever, the overdrive, I want the tone value, and I'm going to map that to that first pot. And now let's say I want to map the, I don't know, the delay, say the delay feedback, map that to macro 1 as well. So as we turn it up, not only do we have all our separate zones coming in, but we also have the values on the actual effects themselves changing as well. So I don't know if that's going to make much of an example, but let's have a listen anyway. Well, anyway, you get the idea. And oh, one last thing, the auto button up here. What this does is it will actually change the what units we're looking at depending on where the chain selector is. So in this case, so I've just right clicked and select distribute ranges equally. And you'll notice that as I go over the different zones, it shows me the effects that are currently open in that zone. So that's what that little guy up there does. And that's the chain selector. So hopefully I explained that okay. If I didn't, feel free to head down to the dspproject.com if you're not already here, of course, and leave a comment underneath this video. Ask me any questions about the effects rack and I will try and answer it to the best of my abilities. Alternatively, maybe you want to share how you use effects racks, what you think they're good for, what their strengths are. We'd love to hear it. While you're on the site, if you want to subscribe, that really helps us out. And finally, if you want to get a hold of me direct, you can send an email to inbox@thedspproject.com. Final pimp before we go, the APC20, if you'd like to win it, thedspproject.com/win. And yeah, I think that's all about it for this week, and I'll see you next week.